You've seen the blue tongues on your feed, and you've probably been told methylene blue is the new mitochondrial miracle, a smarter, sharper upgrade over that dusty CoQ10 bottle in your parents' cabinet. Here's the part the podcasters skip. In the only well-controlled human trial in healthy adults, methylene blue moved memory retrieval by about 7% from a single dose in 26 people ever. CoQ10, the supposedly boring one, has 45 randomized trials on blood pressure alone. So which one actually earns a spot in your routine in 2026, and which one could send you to the if you're on the wrong prescription? Let's put them head to head on the real numbers. Both of these molecules do something similar inside your cells. They shuttle electrons through the little energy factories called mitochondria, the parts of your cells that turn food and oxygen into usable fuel. When those factories run smoothly, you feel like yourself. When they sputter, you feel tired, foggy, and older than the calendar says. CoQ10 is something your body already makes. It sits inside the mitochondrial machinery and helps move electrons along the assembly line. Production drops as you age, and certain medications knock it down further. Methylene blue is different. It's a synthetic dye, first cooked up in a lab in 1876, literally the first fully synthetic drug in human history. When you swallow it in tiny amounts, it acts like a shortcut wire, ferrying electrons around damaged parts of that same assembly line. Same neighborhood, very different rules, and the rules are where people get burned. Let's start with CoQ10 because the paper trail is much longer. A 2022 meta-analysis pulled together 13 randomized trials, over 1,100 people, and found a statistically significant reduction in fatigue that scaled with both dose and duration. Out of 602 supplemented participants, exactly one had a mild stomach upset. That's a remarkable safety profile. On blood pressure, a 2025 review in the International Journal of Cardiology pooled 45 randomized trials, doses from 20 to 1,200 milligrams a day, and found a real drop in systolic pressure. And on statin muscle pain, that nagging soreness people get on cholesterol drugs, a 7-trial meta-analysis found roughly a 1-point drop on a 10-point pain scale. Modest, but real and consistent enough that cardiologists now regularly suggest it. Now here's the honest caveat, and it lands right where the science actually gets interesting. Earlier reviews of CoQ10 for statin pain came back null. The evidence flipped positive as trial quality improved and as researchers started using ubiquinol, the reduced, better absorbed form. That matters, and we'll come back to it. Now methylene blue. The mechanism is legitimately elegant, and the preclinical data in rats and cell cultures is genuinely exciting. But when you go looking for the human evidence in healthy adults, you find one study. Rodriguez and colleagues, Radiology, 2016. 26 people, one oral dose of about 280 milligrams, and an fMRI scanner. Memory retrieval improved by about 7% an hour later, and specific brain regions lit up more during attention tasks. That's it. That is the entire well-controlled healthy adult cognitive trial base in 2026. Everything else is animal work, uncontrolled anecdotes, or the tau-targeted derivative LMTM in Alzheimer's patients, which is a different molecule, a different population, and phase 3 results aren't due until late this year. Here's where you need to calibrate expectations honestly. A 7% memory improvement in a single fMRI session is not going to make you feel like Bradley Cooper in Limitless. It's a signal a researcher can measure with statistics. It's not a subjective transformation. A 1-point drop on a 10-point pain scale from CoQ10 is meaningful if your muscles ache every morning, but it's not a cure. A few millimeters of mercury off your blood pressure is clinically useful over years, not something you'll feel by Friday. Both of these compounds are, in the language of the trials, modest. Anyone selling you dramatic before and after transformations from either one is selling you a story, not the science. The real question isn't which one is magic, it's which one has the better ratio of evidence, safety, and cost for a specific problem you actually have. Let's talk money because the marketing loves to skip this. CoQ10 at a therapeutic dose, 200 milligrams a day of ubiquinol, runs about 28 cents to $1.30 a day depending on brand. Call it $10 to $40 a month. Methylene blue looks cheap on the surface. USB grade at trendy microdoses of 5 or 10 milligrams runs about 30 cents to $1.20 per dose. But and this is the part the influencers glide past, the actual studied cognitive dose is 0.5 to 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. For a 70-kilogram adult, that's 35 to 280 milligrams. At real research doses, pharmaceutical-grade methylene blue can run $5 to $30 a day. So the tiny drop-in-your-water bottle version is affordable, but it's also below what the trials actually tested. You're paying for a vibe, not a dose. And please, this is important, do not, under any circumstances, buy aquarium-grade methylene blue and drink it. Aquarium and industrial grades routinely contain heavy metal contaminants like arsenic and lead. Only USB or pharmaceutical grade is fit for human consumption. This is the section that changes the whole comparison. CoQ10's safety profile is close to boring. The one interaction worth knowing is a mild interference with warfarin, the blood thinner, because CoQ10 is structurally similar to vitamin K. If you're on warfarin, tell your doctor. Otherwise, it's one of the safest supplements sold. Methylene blue is a different animal. It is an FDA-approved drug, not a benign herb, and it is a potent MAOA inhibitor, meaning it blocks one of the main enzymes that clears serotonin from your brain. If you combine it with any medication that raises serotonin, you can trigger serotonin syndrome, which can be fatal. The FDA has issued a formal drug safety communication about this. The list of contraindicated drugs is long, and it includes medicines millions of people take. SSRIs like Prozac, Zoloft, and Lexapro. SNRIs like Effexor and Cymbalta, older tricyclic antidepressants, MAOIs, migraine triptans like sumatriptan, the painkiller tramadol, the cough suppressant dextromethorphan found in many over-the-counter cold medicines, and even St. John's wort. If you are on any antidepressant, methylene blue is off the table. Full stop. Talk to your prescriber before you even consider it. There's also a genetic condition called G6PD deficiency, more common in people of Mediterranean, African, and Middle Eastern descent, where methylene blue can trigger a dangerous red blood cell breakdown. And there's a hard biological ceiling. Methylene blue is hormetic, which is a fancy word for a U-shaped curve. Low doses help mitochondria. High doses reverse the effect and actually damage cells through oxidative stress. The threshold flips somewhere around 10 milligrams per kilogram, so more is not better, more is worse. That's the opposite of how most people think about supplements, and it's exactly why the podcast-fueled, just add another dropper approach is genuinely risky. Before we get to the verdict, let me flag one thing that quietly explains a lot of the mixed CoQ10 reviews online. CoQ10 comes in two forms, Ubiquinone, which is the cheap oxidized form in most drugstore bottles, and ubiquinol, the reduced form your body actually uses. Ubiquinol is roughly 2 to 4 times better absorbed, and that gap widens after age 40 because your ability to convert ubiquinone into ubiquinol declines with age. A lot of the CoQ10 didn't do anything for me testimonials are really, the cheap oxidized form never reached my bloodstream. If you're over 40 and you want to give CoQ10 a fair shot, spend the extra few dollars for ubiquinol and take it with a meal that contains some fat. It's fat-soluble, so a dry pill on an empty stomach is money down the drain. All right, the head-to-head verdict based on what the 2026 evidence actually shows. Reach for CoQ10, specifically ubiquinol, 100 to 200 milligrams a day with a fatty meal, if any of these apply. You're over 40, you're on a statin and dealing with muscle aches, you have high blood pressure your doctor is working on, you have heart failure, or you're wrestling with persistent unexplained fatigue, and your blood work is otherwise normal. Give it 8 to 12 weeks before you judge it. The evidence base is deep, the safety is clean, and the cost is low. Consider methylene blue only if, and this is a stack of ifs, you are a generally healthy adult, you are not on any serotonergic medication, you know your G6PD status, you're buying USB or pharmaceutical grade, and you want an acute cognitive lift for a specific task. Start low in the 0.5 to 1 milligram per kilogram range, which is roughly 35 to 70 milligrams for a 70 kilogram adult. Morning only, because the half-life will wreck your sleep otherwise. And one more piece of advice the internet won't give you, don't stack them on the same day. CoQ10 and methylene blue compete as electron shuttles in the same mitochondrial pathway, and neurohackers routinely report that CoQ10 blunts the methylene blue effect. No randomized trial has tested this yet, but the mechanism is real enough that stacking them is at best a waste of money. Whichever one you try, track a real outcome. For CoQ10, log your blood pressure, a weekly fatigue score, or a muscle pain diary. For Methylene Blue, run a timed cognitive task, a reaction time app or an NBAC test before and 90 minutes after a dose. Without a number, you're just interpreting placebo. If this comparison helped you cut through the noise, hit the like button and subscribe so the next evidence-first breakdown lands in your feed. Whichever one you pick, the only honest way to judge it is to watch the numbers in your own body. Vegetabla gives you a mitochondria score estimated from your VO to max, HRV, and resting heart rate, then projects where it's heading in 12 weeks. See your own number at vegetabla.com.